Welcome to the Overland Sea podcast. Today is the West Ham pre-game analysis. You're joined by me, Matt, and my little brother, Andrew. Andrew, we've already covered the Liverpool game, and obviously we created a formation which was completely different for the game. How do you see the West Ham away game going?
I assume that we will go to a
In my opinion,
3-1 in the next game.
say again.
I'm assuming we're playing a 4-2-3-1 in the next game.
Right.
Purely off the basis of that's what we're playing all of pre-season. All of pre-season. And I think with Casado hopefully playing, that gives us the cover and the defensive option. It might be a tactical switch in how Poch wants to play, in terms of he likes having the back three as we go forward and we move to a 4-2-3-1 in attack. But I think, like I said, Colwill, I think it hangs Colwill out to dry a little bit, and while he's capable of doing it, it's not his comfortable position. I'd rather he was playing centre back. I think it'll probably be Kepa, Reece James, Thiago Silva, Levi Colwill, Chilwell. I started Reece James, right? Did I say Kepa?
Yeah, that's how you coming back from Madrid for one last game.
Madrid. No, the other Spanish bloke, David Sanchez. So, sorry, David Sanchez, Reece James, Levi Colwill, and Thiago Silva in the middle, and Chilwell, Enzo Casado, Conor Gallagher in the 10, and then I want it to be Mudryk and Ian Matson on the wings. Nicholas Jackson up front is what I want it to be. Maybe
I agree with that.
To play, and Thiago Silva might be rested because he doesn't look quite so solid in the back four. He looks incredible in the back five in that central position.
Who do you think is going to be rested? Thiago?
I think he could be, just on the basis that he does, pace-wise, he can be a bit suspect in the back four. I think that, and did look a bit suspect in the back four at the back end of last season. But I think a lot of that is also just complete lack of protection from the midfield. So Casado might stop that.
That was going to be my next question. Do you think if Caicedo plays, that makes a difference for Thiago Silva?
I think it definitely does. Obviously, Antonio, who I assume will start front, he started last week for West Ham, is big, strong, and quick, which might mean that Dizazi gets the nod because he is also big, strong, and quick. But Thiago Silva reads the game so well, wins headers. I think he's more than capable. It's just when he's got multiple people running at him that are quicker than him, it's not easy. Especially when him and Levi Cole haven't played together all that much. I could see the slight lack of cohesion that could lead to Levi Cole being slightly deeper or slightly further forward, that could be
Great gaps
by Antonio's pace. So, I mean, I wouldn't be massively surprised if Dizazi played, and I think Thiago Silva will slowly be sort of phased out this year on the basis that we've got so many players and he is old. And I think him not being given the captaincy does show something that we are starting to think about phasing him out, and I think he'll be starting to think about being phased out and going to Brazil or doing whatever he wants to do.
Well, he's been told numerous times he's going to be offered a coaching job at Chelsea once he retires if he wants to stay.
Which, he's a great. The experience he has can only be a good thing around the club. And from all intents and purposes, just seems like a model citizen, stand-up bloke. Like, you never really hear any stories of anything coming out about Thiago Silva in a negative light. So I think that can only be a good thing. We'll see how good he is as a coach, but I can't imagine that he'll be a bad one with all the wisdom he's got at centre back and the great managers that he's been managed by, the great teams that he's played in. I think he'll be an excellent coach. It's just whether he wants to hang up his boots or whether he wants to go back to Brazil and play there for a bit. It sounds like he's quite happy in London and his family's quite settled in London, and that's probably why he's stayed here for as long as he has. But we'll see what the future holds, really. But that's why I wouldn't be incredibly surprised if Dizazi plays. Just for pace and size, really.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely arguments to Thiago starting and then coming off later on if we get, comfortable and we look like we're going to, see the game out. Or, him coming on later on to just tighten up. Because let's face it, we don't know if Dizazi's actually match fit yet. Although he did look pretty good in the Liverpool game. He didn't look unfit, but, like you said, maybe playing in a 4 could be different for him. I don't know. I agree with your lineup. I just don't know if I would have Connor behind the striker or Enzo. I was so impressed with Enzo in that second half of that Liverpool game that I just think maybe I'd want him outside the 10.
Yeah, I think he's definitely more creative than Connor is, but I think
Connor being in the middle, I just think he's a workhorse, and he showed that he's willing to put his body in the line. I think he could help Caicedo out. He can get forward and make a run. I just think on the ball at those killer moments to feed the wingers and to feed the striker. I just feel like Enzo. But actually, to be fair, that's kind of going with the fact that we're going to have someone directly behind the striker. It might even be that we have a flat 2 with Caicedo behind. And they can alternate. So
alternating in terms of who goes forward, who kind of sits a little bit. I think the main reason that I'm having Enzo sort of in the 8 slightly further behind is one, he's got better passing range, so I think he can be more effective slightly further away.
Agreed.
Also, he just reads the game better as well. So I think he sniffs the danger a lot better than Connor has done. And I think Connor has shown how impressive and how useful he can be in that press with his energy. So I just think that probably sets us up slightly better having it in that combination. I haven't watched enough of Enzo in the World Cup or before where his long range shooting was banging goals. He obviously hasn't scored from long range for us. And Connor has scored a couple. And I think even in pre-season he scored a few. So I think even though creatively he's not as good as Enzo, I think his finishing for Chelsea has been better. And for me, that kind of edges him slightly closer to Nicholas Jackson. And like I say, Enzo further back can pick out a run from Gallagher better than Gallagher will pick out a run from Enzo. So,
Gallagher scored a couple of decent long shots when he was on loan for Crystal Palace as well.
Yeah.
And also on Connor, I don't actually think we've mentioned it yet. We've spoken about other players who've said that they want to be at the club. Caicedo turning down Liverpool and saying, no, I don't want to go to Chelsea. Lavia's done the same now. Enzo said he's very happy here. We mentioned Thiago Silva just now, who, let's face it, could walk in most teams around Europe. Clearly wants to be there. Connor, with everything that's been going on about whether he's staying or going, and the 50 mil here and how that would help the financial fair play, I think he's actually done really, really well. I think a lot of players it would have phased, and he's clearly put his hand up and said, I want to be here, and he's working his socks off, to prove that he wants to be here. Which, let's face it, any club would be lucky to have that kind of player. I think the balance is going to be really interesting in midfield now with Caicedo if he plays. against West Ham. I'd be amazed if he doesn't. He's young. I can't see him not being match fit. I think in that role that he's going to be playing, he doesn't necessarily need to have that cohesion with the rest of the team just yet, because obviously his job is to stop balls coming into the defense and help the defense out. So I think it'd be a very interesting dynamic. I think the biggest talking point really, although we've got Caicedo coming in and the question marks over Connor, as you've already said, I hope it's Mudryk and Maatsen playing on the wings. If it's not both of them, how do you see it? How do you see us lining up if it's not both of them?
Well, I think it's more likely to be Sterling and Mudryk. Assuming we go with the four at the back, could see it still being fine at the back. Disasi and sticking with what we did last week, it worked quite well. So yeah, I think my heart wants it to be Mudryk and Maatsen, partly on pre-season form, partly on just Mudryk's quick and likes taking people on, likes beating people, and I think that's important in the modern game, is creating space by beating people. And Sterling hasn't showed as much willingness to do that. Maatsen has shown his eye for a pass, can score a goal in pre-season, and Sterling hasn't been hitting the form. So
What about tracking back? Because whoever plays on the left, and it's actually quite an interesting point that you made in the last episode about Colwill and Salah. Now, look, I'm not putting these two players in the same category, but this player I'm about to mention is a threat for West Ham, which is Bowen. He actually got a goal for them in the first weekend, I believe. I think it was him who got the goal. He normally plays on the right. So with that being said, that's surely got to be a question in the manager's head about who plays against him and who's going to be supporting the tracking back.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chilwell will be back there, and I think the manager will have confidence between Chilwell and the midfield that they can handle Bowen. So if Chilwell bombs on, Caicedo will come across. I think when you start thinking about playing someone like Maatsen at left wing for his defensive capabilities, I think you also have to look at who's playing right back. Is that a main outlet? So for somewhere where, I mean, Trent's not particularly quick, but he is an outlet for Liverpool and he can hurt you from various different positions. So you want someone that's going to cover Trent adequately. And I think in that position, you'd start consider a Maatsen for that perspective. I think from where I'm coming from, I just think his form's been better. He's shown that he can score goals. He's shown that he's on form and he's match fit and he's raring to go. And I think from that perspective, I'd rather him play. He's shown.
Would you have him? Would you have him on the left, or would you have him on the right? Because I agree. I think he's shown a lot more creativity than Sterling. Here we go. Matt hates Sterling. But he's shown a lot more creativity. He is versatile. Because I'm just trying to think who the other left winger would be for West Ham. Because the other thing I like about Chilwell is he does, like I said, he was our second. Well, he was the second player that made the most runs for us against Liverpool with like 41, 42, I think it was. So he likes the overlap. So I think it'd be interesting to see who he plays with him on that left side for that. Because for me, it didn't work with Reece and Sterling. But I put a lot of that on Sterling and the way he was playing.
So West Ham.
So would you have Mudryk on the left or Maatsen?
West Ham started Ben Rama on the left and Bowen on the right.
Yeah, Bowen's always he's pretty much on the right at the end of the day. Ben Rama's not exactly a quiet player either.
Benrahma is one of those that's very streaky, so if he's on form, he's a hell of a player. But so he's not. I think Bowen was very good season before last. I think last season he struggled.
But West Ham struggled in the league full stop last season. Like,
West
considering where they were the year before, where they finished last year, they still won. They still won the Conference League, the Europa Conference League.
They had an eye on the Conference League all season. You hear about certain things where, and I heard people talk about it with Newcastle this season, and potentially they have one eye on the Champions League, and all their players are just a bit, I want to be playing Champions League football, so there's something a little bit standoffish. The rest of the time, didn't hold them back in a 5-1 win at the weekend.
No, I don't think anybody would have predicted that, to be honest. No, just quickly, I don't think Eddie Howe's that type of manager. I think Eddie Howe would be, and this is the first time he's been in Europe, so it's going to be interesting from his perspective. But I rate him as a manager, and I think he's done a great job with Newcastle on that point. But
problem, I don't think that's a manager thing. I think the manager can see it happening and do something about it and stop playing players in the Champions League that aren't performing in the Premier League to stop it happening. I don't think it's a manager-initiated problem. And I think if everyone's out and you don't, I think Newcastle, with the depth of squad that they have at the minute, it's significantly better than the depth of West Ham's team. With West Ham, basically the 11 picks itself, they might have one or two flex options that are helpful. I think they signed teams in January, which means that they've got another option up front. They did have Paqueta, Fornals, Benrahma for those three midfield spots. They have Cornet, who's fine, could do a job. But I think the 11 almost picked itself. It's a good time to play in West Ham, obviously, after they've lost Declan Rice. I think there's a big hole in there at the middle. At the minute, they played Lucas Paqueta in the pivot at the weekend.
Who they might also be losing because Man City are apparently looking at him.
Yeah, so his head could be turned, or he might go by the weekend with the transfer and you don't know what to happen. So it is a good time to play them. But I think the team is similar to what it was last year. They struggled last year. They got a draw against Bournemouth, which isn't a particularly fantastic result. Bournemouth are also down last season. So, and one of the candidates to go down again. So, I think we should win the game. I think it is a way which obviously adds a bit of difficulty because it just does. The atmosphere at that stadium is generally quite good. The West Ham fans are generally pretty good. Maybe last season would have put a dampener on it, but then winning the Europa Conference League, it's just a bit of a weird one. They might be pretty excited and ready to go for this season. I'm assuming that means they've got Europa League football this year. Because they're on the Europa Conference League.
Was there not a weird rule where they stopped doing that? Or if it was you won Europa, you went into Champions League. But I think there was a weird rule saying if you won Europa Conference, you didn't go into Europa League. I remember something like that. They either stopped it entirely. I think they said if you win Europa Conference, you don't go into Europa, which I thought was weird. If you're still going to say, well, if you win Europa, you can go in Champions League. But either way, they should have Europe because they won the trophy. They may not have qualified from their league position, but they won the trophy, so they've got to be in a competition. Unless they're actually saying, regardless of whether you win it or not, you've got to qualify for it.
They've still got the same rules around how many clubs can be in each competition. So I think you get an extra one. So, for instance, in the Champions League, we automatically get 4. But Champions League winner get a spot in the Champions League. So if if 2 English teams finish outside the top 4, one of them won the Champions League, one of them won the Europa League.
Yeah.
Likely scenarios that is, then you'd only have 4 teams in it. You wouldn't have 6. You wouldn't have 5 teams, and you wouldn't have 6, and someone would have to drop out.
Well, yeah, because that's similar to what happened when we won the Champions League the first time and we knocked Spurs out, didn't we? Weren't Spurs in the running to get it, and we then won the Champions League, and it meant that they didn't get Champions League football because they were fourth. I think back then we knocked them out, but they think they've changed the rule. They're changing the rule again. They're talking about easily us having five teams in the Champions League next season, if not more. Huh?
Yeah, they were talking about that on Sky Sport on the line.
It might even be more, which is great for the Premier League. It's great for those teams that are always on the fringes. Last year was a big surprise for that. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. If Elise comes in or Lavia comes in, does that change your starting 11 or formation in any shape or form? Especially as I think, for me, with Nkuku coming being injured and Elise coming in, that's a number 10 right there.
I mean, like I said, I don't think Elise plays number 10 or has played a lot of number 10. For me, he was always wide right, Eze in the middle, Zaha on the left. I think he could do a job there. I think Elise is injured or has been injured. 99.
He didn't play on the weekend.
Fit.
I don't think he played on the weekend, did he? He didn't play against Sheffield. He didn't play against Sheffield United, did he?
No, I don't think so. I think he's injured. I'm 99%, even if he's not injured anymore, I'm 99% sure he's not be match fit. So he, for me, wouldn't start. And I think on the basis that we've had Casado for longer, paid more for him, think he's a slightly better player as a defensive option. I've watched a lot of highlights of Romeo Lavia this week. I am pretty impressed.
You're what? Pretty impressed.
He seems like a stronger, physically stronger Kovacic. He seems to like to take the ball past people in transition. He looks like he's willing to receive it anywhere. He loves that last-ditch slide challenge and seems to be pretty proficient at it. Draws fouls pretty well.
He's a big guy, isn't he?
Get teams out of trouble. I think he just knows how to get out of trouble when he receives the ball in a difficult position. But I don't think we need to rush him into the team. If I'm honest, I think he's more one that will receive the ball from defenders, does need a bit of time to know where to give it. I can understand putting Moses Casado in there, and almost your job is to, until you get into it and understand the players around you and know what they're doing, no one's going to give him a hard, just don't give him a hard ball, only give it to him if he's in space kind of thing, and just be there to block West Ham from doing anything really. I could see him sort of having that job and sort of slowly growing in with the players. I don't think with Romeo Lavia it makes sense to put both of them in. Just to put Enzo further forward, because like I said, I don't think I want Enzo in a 10 particularly anyway. I do think you kind of lose something, and he could dictate the tempo in a similar way to to what
I said in the last video, he bossed the midfield. He bossed the midfield in the way he was taking on, two Liverpool players at a time and, skimming past them and then giving a glorious ball, whether it was, on the ground or over the top. I think you're right on that one. I think you are right.
Yeah, because I know he's a decent long-range shooter as well, from random highlights and whatever. But I think that, for me, is his best position where he has more freedom, but also because he's defensively. And I think from what his comments have said, where he will have more of a free reign, but still be in that sort of position, I think he is primed to play in the 8, and that's where he's been told this season that he's going to play.
Makes sense. He's wearing the number 8 shirt. So.
Nkuku would be number 10. But I think we would lose more than we'll gain from putting him in there in number 10.
Fair. No, I agree with that.
So it changes my team at all, if I'm honest.
Fair. So you've gone back to we've both gone back to the 4-2 sort of, call it a 4-2-3-1. I think it'd be more of a 4-3-3 for this game. We didn't play that against Liverpool. So what would you like to see different from this game that we didn't quite see in the Liverpool game?
I don't think it's about seeing anything drastically different. I think the whole point of bringing a player in like Casado is that he can relieve the need to play three centre-backs. And I think he does that either by being slightly in front of the defence and kind of, I think will play very similarly to how we did. And when we go forward, he'll just sit in front of the two centre-backs and it'll almost become like a three at centre-backs like we were playing. And he'll just sort of cover and the other two, he'll cover and the other two will kind of sweep up behind him. And then I think the tactic will be very similar where when we're going forward, we'll have three there covering. We'll have Chilwell and Reece James bombing on. And it's just a different type of player to beat the sort of transition. I think it aids the transition. One of the main problems that I think we usually have, and I think Cole will go some way to resolving this. And I think if we play Casado or Alavia that are slightly better in transition and are stronger on the ball and can use their body to sort of get round players.
Yeah.
I think people would have to press us a lot earlier. What has been a problem for us, especially when we're playing the back three with three centre-backs, no one has ever really felt the need to press the centre-backs because they're not killer, like long ball players. They're not going to hurt you. So I think moving away from having three centre-backs and also the fact that Levi Colwill is an exceptional passer of the ball between the lines. Disasi looks like he can play a long ball, similar to how Rudiger used to do it, who was the only one that seemed to be able to spray a ball. I think Fofana showed that he's a decent passer of the ball as well. I think we are moving to a defence that can hurt you with decent passes, and people will have to try and close them down a little bit earlier, because otherwise, especially with Nicholas Jackson now up front, we've got a target man that can hold the ball and bring other people into play. So it's not. It's not. It's a risk now to not. I think it will be by the end of the season. I think it'll be a risk to not close our defenders down a little bit, which then inevitably will allow us to play round teams a lot better, especially the teams that will sit all their team back. 10 men behind the ball, everyone back in their own half, which is what you see.
It would create more gaps in the midfield if they did that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'll pull the forwards forward, which then creates either more gap in midfield or the defence has to push up and it's more to keep it compact. The defence will have to push up and then there's more space in behind for Mudryk and Nicholas Jackson. And I think it's what Man City have done very well is have players that can play a killer ball or just when Bernardo Silva or De Bruyne drop slightly deeper, have been more effective with it. Whereas we've had a Jorginho drop deep and just want to play like a sideways ball. He wasn't really a killer ball specialist. And I think it's what we're trying to do with Enzo at the back end of last season, but we didn't have the runs and no one was match fit. So I think I could see us setting up how we set up against Liverpool a lot this season with the three back, but it will just be a defensive midfielder and two centre-backs. And then when we haven't got the ball, I think it will be a 4-2-3-1. And we'll just have, and Chilwell will be playing left back, which is just a better position. It's just, I think, more solid defensively having Chilwell there and not having Colwill out playing left wing back. And I can't imagine that Colwill would have been told that he'll be playing defending as a left back week in, week out and signed a new contract. So
No.
I feel like he was told that.
Did he sign like a 6-year contract as well? So
I think
6 years is a long time for a player to be playing out of position potentially. It might have to be, like you said, maybe depending on who we're playing, we might have to do what the position that we did against Liverpool. But I think it'd be unlikely. I think you're right with that analysis on us playing a similar style of football to what Liverpool play. I mean, for me, definitely want to see more cohesion. Not necessarily cohesion, but a bit more link-up play with the front three. That I think that's, again, I think Sterling was a big part of that. He just, he was always looking for James in the Liverpool game, as we said before. So let's not focus on that. But yeah, a bit more interplay with the front three would be nice this time round. I don't think he actually linked up with Jackson at all. To be fair, maybe once, maybe a few times, but there was no desire really from that. Whereas I think when we're playing with a front three, there has to be a bit more, a bit freer playing there. And obviously, I expect quick counter attacks, especially if it is Mudryk and Maatsen, or if one of them ends up coming on, and it's both, and all three of them are on, then great.
I think in pre-season we saw from Maatsen, Mudryk, and Jackson that they were developing understanding between the four of them. They were linking together quite well. They were seeing each other's runs. Obviously, Mudryk scored a goal.
No, I agree. And for me, Nkunku was a big part of that. And that's the thing. We don't have him. We don't have that out-and-out number 10. And that's where I'm a bit like, I think the midfield three will be okay. If it is Conor Gallagher, Enzo, and potentially Caicedo.
To be fair, I think that is his position. That's where he wants to play. That's where he's shone for Crystal Palace. And in Chelsea shirt, he hasn't been able to play that role at all.
No, he's had a fair few people in front of him, to be fair.
Weren't playing the position they wanted to be playing in last season. We're playing wingers at left wing back and right wing back, or at right wing back. And I think there is an element of, you've got to plug in and do a job, but if everyone's playing out position, you're not going to get the performance levels that you want, because no one's able to play in a position that's not their position as well as they are in the position that they played in since they were 8. So I do want Conor in this time when Nkunku's injured. I do want to see him in that 10 role.
Yeah, fair.
Even
I think that was a good point about how he played there in Palace.
Yeah, I think he'll play better this season in the 10 than he played last season. And I think it'll only help his market value. So even if we end up deciding at the end of the season, we've got better options, we don't really want him, I think we end up selling him for more. I think he plays, I think he'll end up playing for England more. And that will only help his value. I think that's a completely different conversation if we don't play 10 for England, but we move.
No, I think Maddison would have something to say about that. To be fair, if that happened, but
10, that's the problem. We never play 10 for England, so he just doesn't seem to have, rightly or wrongly, Southgate doesn't seem to trust him to play a different position. I would rather a James Ward-Prowse or someone that plays centre mids. And let's face it, Gareth Southgate is an incredibly defensive manager and would rather play John Stones in the centre of midfield than James Maddison. So, admittedly, so would Pep, but when you're playing a midfield 2, you're playing 5 at the back and a midfield 2 with John Stones and Declan Rice. Slightly defensive. But that's completely off topic. What do you
like us at all?
Going to be?
Huh?
Score prediction?
It's a way, isn't it? I mean, I said in the pre-game analysis for Liverpool, I said I expect at least 11 points from the first 6 games. If we play like we did in the second half for the whole game, or for 70 minutes, I'll be happy with that. For me, it depends on who's playing in the front three. If we're playing the front three, or if we do the same formation against Liverpool, because again, I felt like I don't think Jackson gave that ball to Mudryk now at the end, because I think he was having to do so much by himself at times that he wasn't looking, and I don't want to see that in the West Ham game. So I could see us getting 2 goals. I'm going to say 2-1 if we're doing a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. I'll say 2-1 to us.
I'm going to say 2-0. I'm just going to go out all out, confident. 2-0. Why not?
All right, then who's going to score?
But who do I think is going to score?
Who's going to score? Who's going to score for us? I don't expect you to pick the West Ham one, but for us, who do you think is going to score?
I think Nicholas Jackson will get one. And then I think we're going to get Penn. And I don't know who takes pens for us anymore. I think Mudryk's going to win it to Penn. And I don't know who's going to take pens.
I had a feeling it'd be Nkuku because he did it for Leipzig.
Probably. But
he's not playing.
Fabinho,
So
all of them are gone. Probably default to the striker.
I think it's going to be Jackson or Enzo. The penalties at the moment, I think it'd be Enzo or Jackson. Huh?
Yeah, I think generally it defaults to Jackson, doesn't it? But it could be Enzo. I wouldn't mind Enzo. They won a lot of penalty shootouts in the World Cup. I don't know if he took many, but
well, I'm pretty sure he took one in the World Cup final.
Probably.
So yeah, that'd be my guess. Do you know what? I'm going to go with the goals. Who did you say the second? Oh, you said the second one was going to be a penalty, didn't you?
Yeah, so I think Jackson and a pen.
I'm going to go with Mudryk and Enzo.
Bold.
I just think if Enzo plays the way he did in the second half, I think he'll find himself into a little bit more space, and I think all it takes for him to get past somebody on the edge of the box, and I think he's got a good strike on him. He's definitely a lot more confident, a bit more established in this team now. It really shone through. I think he's a leader, leads by example, and I think if Mudryk plays, don't get me wrong, it could be Maatsen as well, or instead of. But I think if Mudryk plays, I just think he's gonna cause problems.
I agree. Could happen. It's all hypothetical, really, isn't it? One.
And I'm going to say Antonio gets the goal for West Ham.
Yeah. I think if they score, I don't know what it is. Chelsea players love scoring against us. Or Emerson. Zuma or Emerson, it would probably be one of them.
Yeah, Emerson with a screamer. You heard it here first. As my little brother always says, like, subscribe, share, follow, and we'll see you next time.